I was just saying to a few people, this is a bit of a first for me. I haven't normally spoken in this kind of a state before. I've done sort of talks in the past that are very high adrenaline and sort of trying to pump things up on a marketing level or whatever, and it's really nice to sort of, having meditated, to try and see what it feels like to talk like this. So it's sort of new ground for me, like a lot of things in Buddhism have been for me, so I'm interested to see what it feels like afterwards and as I do this. I think for me, my my journey to Buddhism was sort of, I thought about it, why I'm a Buddhist, and it's sort of three separate things that happen. One, how I got to the door, like literally, not this door, but David Street, Pitt Street, sorry. How I then sort of got onto the path to start meditating, which I think was definitely my first step on the journey. And then really how I've sort of continued to stay a Buddhist, which was probably the hardest part, where the real story's at. But I think I can thank really how I got to the door was a lot to do with my daughter Pearl, which a few of you know. I think 4 years almost to the day, on Buddha Day 4 years ago, Pearl was at Federation Square with her mother, and they had a stand there with washing the baby Buddha, and she was washing it and really doing it, and the women were going, come and do more, and she really, really got into it. And she pestered Carolyn, my partner, who some of you know also comes to the centre. She pestered Carolyn to sort of find out more about Buddhism and asked if there was a kids thing or something like that. So, Carolyn, being a great mother, sort of went around, looked, found this sort of Chinese Buddhist centre where she sort of did some stuff. And it was very sort of culturally difficult. It was quite austere, and they didn't really speak much English, so Pearl found that quite difficult. So we kept on looking, and the royal we, Carolyn kept on looking. And we ended up at the Tyra Institute in Brighton. And they do a Dharma club once a month. So we started sort of going to that, and they have the kids meditate for, 3 minutes. But they sort of sing a song. They have two groups, and Pearl was in the younger group, and it's very much like a play group sort of setup. And they meditate, and they sing a song. They do a sit-down book. Then they'll have a bit of craft, and then they have like a kids' party with all the sort of kids things, sweet things they like and whatever. So it was a real... She really loved it, and we went there quite regularly, and we sort of got interested in Buddhism. And I kind of noticed that there's a living centre there, and they have it's a very different setup to this. But there's a few things that I struggle with. It's in an old church, so it sort of really triggered my religious projections and experiences, which have been fairly negative. So that was tricky. But they sort of, and it was Tibetan, so it was very gold and sort of Catholic. So again, it didn't sort of quite sit right for me personally to sort of think I would go there as an adult. But I really loved what they did with the kids. And I sort of noticed that people spoke a bit differently. Like if when people said I sort of watched people come and they're obviously had a bad experience, and people would say to them. Normally, someone say, "Oh, this has happened," and then sort of people say, "Oh, that's terrible," and really sort of get into it. And they had a sort of a different. The thing that really struck me was that they talked. They sort of, "Oh, so that's your experience. That's how you got here. Okay." Oh, and then they talk about something more positive of what sort of the beginnings of talking about impermanence, I guess. And it just really struck me that they had a different way of talking. So I sort of became really intrigued. So I guess then, Carolyn was interested in finding a centre local. We lived in Brunswick at that point, and she found the MBC, and she looked into a course, and then she asked me if I wanted to do a course, and I kind of thought, Buddhism it was sort of there, but I was sort of there was definitely a reluctance. But I really wanted to do something with her, something together, so that was good. We hadn't done something together for a while, so it was really felt good to do that. So we came to a course at Pitt Street that Aruna Mining was running, which was an introduction to Buddhism talk. So I guess the meditation part of that I really sort of felt okay and good with. There was a little bit of myself being a bit too cool for school. That Aruna Milan was sort of more than my match for that, which was lucky for me. So I stuck with the whole course and went through that. And then Aruna Milan invited me to join the men's night, and I remember Uppita was very kind to me on the first night for that, which kept me there. So then that got me here, and I started meditating, and not unsimilar to other people. My life was pretty. I didn't even know I was unhappy really, but I was really had a really difficult life at that time. The fundamentals of my life were really high pressure, and things just weren't sort of great. And meditation gave me the chance to have a bit of time out, a bit of escape from that in a way. And escape's the wrong word. A bit of time out, a bit of sort of space, I think, is probably the right word for it. And that really helps, and that kept me sort of going. And I think I had a really good bit of luck with beginner's mind as well. So that really sort of kept me coming for that first bit of time, and that sort of kept me through just sort of being here and starting here, which was sort of great. And then I guess, how I continue to be here is probably, that's where in so many ways I've sort of tripped myself up over the years and things that are good for me or whatever. But I definitely had a few issues with some of the extra things about Buddhism. So I really struggled with bowing to the rupas. That really didn't, I really sort of had something going on about that. And I guess I really struggled with people being so good. And like I was just wasn't used to coming to a place where people were nice. And people were good, and people genuinely, had my best wishes at heart. And I was really suspicious, and where's the rub when they're going to tell me, look, okay, now to be a good Buddhist, you've got to be, chastised for the rest of your life, or you've got to give us all your money or something. What's the rub, what's going on? So I was really, really, gotten away from me. So that was sort of something I guess I had to get through. And sort of a couple of things that sort of helped was that someone told me that, it wasn't this, putting your hands together wasn't like a Christian putting your hands together. It was like that, which is a lotus. And it's actually, you're bowing to your own potential on some level, your own potential to, be enlightened or advance or be on the path or whatever it is. So that sort of really sort of helped with that, and helped with those, those projections of all the things that have gone on. So that sort of, bit by bit, I sort of managed to get through that. And I think, I have to say that the tradition of Triratna allows a lot of space for people to spin their wheels and get it wrong, and struggle to be vegetarian and whatever it is. There's so much space that Triratna does, and especially the individuals in the MBC. All the order members here have given me a lot of space and have been very patient. People in my study group have been very patient with me, or I've been sort of quite cynical and quite abrupt about things that I've found difficult with, and sort of quite quick to question and slow to believe, and whatever it is. So that's sort of, I really think that the Triratna tradition has helped me to continue being a Buddhist, which was the biggest challenge really. The other things were sort of fortuitous. So I guess sort of with that, I've kind of essentially, why I'm still a Buddhist is that as I meditate, when I go on retreat, when I connect with the Sangha, when I go to my study group, I'm just a better person. And that really, gives me a heartfelt response, and it's really why I'm continue to be a Buddhist. Essentially, I think if I keep doing those things, then metta and integration are just inevitable. There's one more thing I could say, which after I've been meditating for a while. I went on my first retreat. It was funny. My life was, I came in, things were, fundamentals for me were really tricky. My life was bad, and it got worse as I was here. I remember coming back from my first retreat, which was actually on the difference between conforming, being a true individual, where you are on the continuum of conforming and individualist. I think anyway, it was a really good first retreat for me. Perfect. I remember coming back, and my life was sort of, my life was much worse, and then I came back feeling really, really good. I was here on the Monday. We're lucky because we have the men's night on a Monday, so after we come back from retreat, we still got that with us. I remember someone saying to me, "How are you?" And I sort of looked at them a bit surprised and said, "Oh, I feel really good for no earthly good reason." I just couldn't explain. And I didn't even know, I didn't think I was going to say that. I don't know where those words came from. I just said it, and then, everyone just sort of, it was a good thing. But it's things like that, I guess, have kept me going. Suddenly so that's why I continue to be a Buddhist. I think that's probably my story.